So today's lesson won't take very long. We also have the homework set today is one of the ones we haven't done it for a while. One of them that you have to do in class, and it's only 3 questions, and it's not over the homework, it's over just kind of the lesson. And actually, I did include one question that was from 5.1. So we'll get to that, but today's lesson should go a little bit quickly. So basically today we're doing something that a lot of people do before 5.1. This is factored when you don't have that leading coefficient. So you will not have this number in front, or in fact, I guess maybe I should say that number in front is a 1. Maybe that's a better way to put it. So I still put these steps on here because, again, just like I said before, the way I want you guys to look at this is today's stuff that you do, there's a couple shortcuts you can take, but I want to make sure you know that you're doing it the exact same way, or at least that's how I teach it. Now, again, there's some of you guys that are going to be pretty good at this or good enough at this, and you're good enough at mental math. You can kind of skip around some things. One thing I will ask is I at least ask you to do this X to show me your work. Again, I'm fully aware some of you guys don't actually have to show work, but I like you to show something. So if you can jot that X down, even if you think it's a little bit of a hassle, if you're good at this, that only takes about 2 seconds anyways. So I do want to see that as work, please. But we do the same thing. We draw the X. The top is the first number times the last number. Now here's the first shortcut, and I'm only going to say this once because I don't like the shortcut. The top is always your first number times your last number. But just like I said, if first number, that means your first number is 1. So your first number times your last number is always your last number times 1, which means it's just your last number. But that's, again, the only reason I only say that once is because at a certain point, once students get to where all they're plugging in is the last number, then when they do have a number in front, when they do have a leading coefficient, like we just got done doing, they accidentally just take the last number. So you'll hear me say it still today. On that first step, I will always say take your first number times your last number, so it's the last number times 1. Because again, I want you to make sure you don't forget, if there is a number in front, you still have to multiply that. So don't get, I guess, the biggest thing, don't get in the habit of just putting your last number in the top there today. Some students see that everyone today is like that, and they start doing that. Again, if you're super great at math, then maybe you can pull that off, but I don't recommend it just in case. Then step 2 is all the same. Numbers of all everything's good. And then the biggest thing is step 3 you don't have to do, because if you put the number that's your leading coefficient, if you put that in the denominator, well, if it's just 1, then when you put it in the denominator, it's just what those numbers are. Any of the numbers over 1, when you reduce it, it's just that number. So 5 over 1 is 5, 10 over 1 is 10, negative 7 over 1 is negative 7. So that's really the step you can kind of stop on, then you don't really have to do step 4. So that's the real shortcut. But again, step 1 and 2, I'm going to do exactly the same because I don't want you guys to mess that up. So I thought about changing this lesson around, and maybe I still should. But I'm starting with, we're looking at these signs. But really, we already kind of know how to deal with this because we just did this the other day. So really, I broke this down into, these have the second sign as a plus, the next one's minus. But really, again, that shouldn't make much difference. Handle this. I have my X. The top of my X is my first number times my last number. So it's 12 times 1 is 12. And that's what I mean, where a lot of people realize today, oh, I just put my last number over there. Well, yes, technically in the lesson today you can, because your first number is always a 1, so your last number times 1, you can just put your last number. But I do not want you to get in the habit of that. Then my middle number is 8. So to add it to the 8, and this is what I'm talking about. If some of you don't have to do any work outside of this, that's fine. But I still want to see this X, or I want to see something that you show your work. So if you don't want to show your X, but you want to show the factors of 12, I would like to see some sort of work. Even if you don't have to do it, I want to see something. So factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. The factors of 12 that add up to the 8 are 2 and 6. X plus 2 and X plus 6. And then this is where what we did before is we divided these by our first number. Well, that first number is 1, so if you divide it by 1, it's not going to change anything. So the other shortcut is you can kind of stop there. That I will show you guys how to do. Or we will do that, where we just stop there. But I don't want you to forget, normally, by that number. We'll bring it up several times today. So the next one, factors, sorry. The top is 1 times 60. So factors of 60 that add up to be negative 16. Now, again, remember, with this method, the biggest thing that people miss is making sure you're keeping track of positives and negatives. So my factors of 60, we did this the other day, takes a little bit of time, but it's 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, whoops, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, 7 doesn't work, 8 doesn't work, 9 doesn't work, let's go back to 10. So which of these add up to be negative 16? We're close. 6 and 10 add up to positive 16, but we want them to be negative 16. Again, if you're that close, all you have to do is change both of your signs. So they're both positive, I changed to both negative. Now they still multiply to give me positive 60, but now they add up to be negative 16. So x minus 6, x minus 10. Again, normally you would divide both of those by your first number, which is just 1, so we can leave it like that. Two on your own quick. Then we'll go over those answers. All right, my answer's up there. Again, you're looking at both of them. The two numbers that multiply to be the top of your x that add up to be the bottom. Technically, you could do it the other way around, and you could label all the numbers that add up to be 12 and look to see which ones multiply to be 32. That would just be a nightmare because there's literally an infinite amount of numbers that add up to be 12. Like 112 plus negative 100 would be an option. This is a little quicker. Any questions on those? The importance of the fact that I said the second sign is just means that both the signs are going to be the same. And we talked about that yesterday. So if you look at our answer, number 4 and 5, number 4, they're both plus. Number 5, they're both minus. Same thing, the one you guys just did. Number 6, they're both plus. Number 7, they're both minus. If that second sign is the same, then both of your signs are going to be the same. And again, the sign I'm talking about is a plus or minus. So if that second one is plus, that means both of your signs in your answer are going to be the same. They could both be plus or they could both be minus. So the next one, if the second sign is a minus, then you know your answer is going to have 1 plus and 1 minus. Now, again, there's some little shortcuts you can look at so you can tell which number gets the plus and which number gets the minus. We can talk about that in a second. But the good news is if you just do it the same way we've been doing, you should be good to go. 1 times negative 90 goes on top. So it's a 1. So two numbers that multiply to be negative 90 to add up to be 1. Remember, if it's negative, I always just put the negative with the left-hand side. That might be wrong, but we'll fix it. It's a pretty easy fix later. So we have negative 1 and 90, negative 3 and 30. 4 doesn't work, I'm 99% sure, but that's not sure enough for me. So I have to do it with my calculator. That's a decimal. 5 should work. 5 is 18. It should work, but I'm not sure. 8 doesn't work. 9 does. Negative 9 and 10. So which one of these has to be positive 1? And be aware of your signs. It's a positive 1. That's going to be this negative 9 and 10. So negative 9 and 10. Again, it's a great place with this x to check your work. Put in your calculator. Negative 9 plus 10, sorry, negative 9 times 10 is negative 90. Negative 9 plus 10 is positive 1. But especially these where you have 1 positive and 1 negative, I would definitely take the time to check that with your calculator, if for no other reason than to make sure your positive and negative are correct. X minus 9 and x plus 10. Again, normally speaking, we would divide those both by 1, your number in front, but that doesn't change anything. So that is our answer for this one. Same thing with the next one. I start with my x. My 1 times negative 33 goes on top. So that's my negative 33. My bottom number is negative 8. So two numbers that multiply would be negative 33. that add up to be -8. Again, I always just put the negative with the left-hand side, so -1 and 33. 2 doesn't work. 3, -3 and 11. If you notice that those are the two numbers we're looking for, you can stop there, but if you want to keep trying, you can. 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 don't work. You're back to 11. And again, I know trying all of those takes a little bit of time, but it's not hard. You just punch buttons in your calculator. So these are the numbers we're going to end up using, but remember, those add up to be +8, and that is not what we're looking for. We're looking for -8. But just like we did on the problems before this, if that's really, really close to your answer, the only difference is the sign. We have a +8 instead of negative. You can change both of your signs. So this -3 becomes a positive. This +11 becomes negative. Now, all of a sudden, they do add up to be -8. But just like we talked about before, not only do they add up to be -8, they still multiply to be -33. And that's one of the big things people miss. Some people change it and they don't realize they still need to multiply to get that top number. And that's why this is a great place to double check your work real quick. Just, again, punch in your calculator. 3 times -11, hit enter. 3 plus -11, hit enter. It's missing points for that. So you're going to be getting x plus 3 and x minus 11. Now, before I have you do the other ones on your own, because some of you guys, once you do those on your own, you'll probably do the homework check, which is fine, but just while I still have your attention, one little shortcut you can remember, if this helps you, is that in these problems, I think it's a little bit hairy. I think it gets a little bit more difficult if we have a number in front. But if you don't have any number in front, that leading coefficient to 1, like we've been doing all day today, this sign tells you the sign. One's going to be plus, one's going to be minus. This sign always goes with the bigger number. So this sign was a plus, so I have the 9 and the 10 got the plus because that sign goes with the bigger number. Same thing on this one. This minus, that's 1 plus 1 minus. This sign goes with the bigger number. So that bigger number between the 3 and the 11, the bigger number is 11, so that gets the minus. That's a little shortcut or a way you can help yourself to check your work. But honestly, again, I used to teach it that way, and I used to bring it up and talk a lot more about it. But at a certain point, I think it's almost more confusing because the other way, we just do it the same way every time. You just have to make sure you are keeping those negatives and positives accounted for. All right, go to do 10 and 11 on your own. I would personally wait till I put up my answers before you do your homework check. But if you want to start your homework check, you have to do that sometime today in class. Or I guess I should say here in a second, I'm going to have you start that. But again, not a bad idea to wait till you can double check your work. Last but not least, one of the keys with this is getting practice. So the worksheet today, I think it's 12 questions. Again, these don't take super long once you get good at it, but you need that practice. So make sure you're taking time to do that. Again, you'll just do that worksheet after you do the homework check. All right, my answers are up there. You want to check those. Again, I still would say if you're not going to show your work, like I know a lot of you guys probably don't have to. I will say there always is a handful of people that don't think they can show work and they think they can do it in their head when they actually can't. So don't fall in that category. But even if you're doing your head, I at least want to see either the X or I at least want to see those factors. But I do want to see something. Honestly, the X I think is a little beneficial. So again, you can check those positives and negatives. Not to be broken record, but this is where people that when they try to do it in their head, this is where they start getting tripped up. If all the signs are positive, then most people are okay to do that in their head. When we have a positive and negative, that's where people start making little mistakes. So again, if I were you, I would always make that X, even if you don't have to list all the factors, and that way you can double check your positives and negatives.